welcome to inaugural first one, Housing Transformation Summit. We are very excited to have you here. In attendance, we have over 100 home builders from around the country, including Texas, California, Washington, Massachusetts. So you have anybody representing here? Whoop, whoop, right? We're very, very excited to have you joining us today. And I know that all of you are extremely busy, so I want to make sure that you really make the best use of your time here. So when you attend sessions, panels, when you're attending your breakout sessions, I really encourage you to stop and think and really take it all in and see, how can this work for me? How can I use this? So hopefully you'll be able to implement some of these ideas in the new year. So with that, let's go ahead and kick off our first panel for the day. So today we're going to talk about personalization and how you can deliver personalization to your customers and still stay on the budget and on time. My name is Anya Chrisanthon, and joining me today is my panel of experts. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but joining me is Tiffany George from Christian Brothers Interiors, Dennis Webb with Fulton Homes, and Nancy Giangeruso with CBD-IT.
BCD.
I'm sorry, I kept saying I was going to say CBD, right? BCD.
Yeah, it's not marijuana.
By the end of the
We
session,
could do that later.
By the end of the session, it will be.
Yes, later. So Tiffany, why don't you start things off and introduce yourself, and if you don't mind giving us a little quick, maybe fun fact about yourself and how you got into the industry.
So I'm Tiffany George, Division President of Builder Services and Design Centers for CBI Finished Home Design. And fun fact about me, no joke, I was on jobs with my mom and dad. They got married as practically babies. They were 17 and 19. They're still married today. And I was my dad's helper. So I got to pick up scraps. I got to help carry pad. My mom was laying Cove Base at that time, and now we've grown into becoming the largest tile contractor in San Diego County, one of the largest markets in the nation, and we do work coast to coast. We've been working with builders for years, from multifamily to residential to commercial, but we're offering our finished home design services nationally for the first time. So thank you.
We're excited to have you here. Dennis?
My name is Dennis Webb. I'm Vice President of Fulton Homes. I've been with Fulton Homes 25 years. I thought I'd see if I like it or not before I go another 25. So before that, I was in the retail business for 20 years. So it's kind of weird to have two different perspectives. But I think the thing that is most valuable is the retail background, and taking our retail background and turning it into our sales and marketing and design center thing. Another weird fun fact is a lot of people have degrees in business and accounting and stuff like that. My degree's in music.
So you know what? When I was speaking to you earlier to prepare for the session, it's no surprise to me that you're in retail background, because everything that you said was all about customer and how we can serve our customer better.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to me.
Yeah, the customer is the most important thing in our business, by the way, and many times we lose sight of that. If it wasn't for the customer, we wouldn't have a business. And retail teaches us that.
Absolutely. And Nancy?
Hi, I'm Nancy Giangeruso. I have been in this industry for 33 years. Prior to that, my fun fact is I built the Four Seasons Hotel in Beverly Hills. I worked for the owners and Isadore Sharp from Four Seasons, and then ended up in this part of the industry because I went over to Warmington Homes to interview as I moved into Orange County, and Tim Hogan liked me, and Jim Warmington Sr. said, "You're the one who's 6 months pregnant and you live in LA and Hogan doesn't have a job for you." And I was with them for 23 years and ran their design center, and I now have created a business that did not exist 4 years ago. It's actually the business that we've all been talking about this afternoon with aftermarket. So I found a niche with a market that the independent designers and design professionals, architects, people that work from home. I have created brick and mortar stores for them, showrooms where they can bring their clients and up-level their business, and going back and doing the remodeling and making their used home new again.
Great. So why don't we kick things off and talk about why personalization is actually a really important component when it comes to selling homes. Because I think most home builders understand that we want to offer personalization, and custom home builders do it really well, but when you start to scale and go into production, that's where it becomes really tricky. How do we deliver a personalized home and we keep it on the budget and not delay construction? So Tiffany, I know you're super passionate about the topic of personalization. So why don't you tell us a little bit about why you think it's important to actually offer options to your customers?
Thanks, Anya. You know, as big as 2020 was as an industry, new home sales only captured 9% of the total dollars spent on housing. Yet 40 to 50% of the shopping community prefers new homes. I mean, really, this shouldn't be acceptable for new home sales. Now we have an equal number of shoppers who prefer new homes, but they will only buy if they can personalize those homes before they can move in. Mm-hmm. And if you're thinking that personalization means offering more options and upgrades, you're right. And really, the easiest thing to do is to offer packages or decide not to offer options at all, because your homes are selling fast. But are you making customers that are growing and building your business? Last year, Alliance surveyed 180,000 home buyers, and out of those, only 32,000 were delighted. That means 1 in 6 home buyers were happy. Most companies couldn't even exist if only 1 in 6 of their customers were satisfied. Too many homeowners are disappointed, and that's why they're not telling their friends to buy. And even as millennials have started buying homes these last few years, 2/3 are now stating that they're not satisfied with their new homes. It isn't living up to their expectation. And so really, if as new home builders, you know, you always have people that will buy your new homes, but what if we want to increase that market share of the spending dollars on housing? The best way to compete and to make more money and to move more dirt is to make more homeowners happier. And if we want to increase market share, then we must not just think of the ones we're selling now, we need to think of the ones we're missing. And if we want to sell more homes, then we have to sell to the shoppers we're not selling now. And the only way we can do that is if we think more like the new home buyers that we aren't selling. And so with personalization, you'll be able to sell these shoppers, and you'll be able to beat the 10% that the industry normally sells. We're allowing too many home buyers to go home and redecorate and remodel, and we're not increasing our market share because of that. And so we need to remember that the number one thing that home shoppers want is to personalize their new home before they move in. And with personalization, you'll have a competitive advantage to capture that market, and you'll be able to sell more homes in any market.
Mm-hmm. So Dennis, you obviously bring a perspective of a home builder because you've been offering personalization for years and you've been able to do it successfully. So can you talk us through some of the best practices, or how do you actually do this?
It's hard. But once you get it going, it's easy. Mm-hmm. The key is set up everything beforehand. And so all your options are set up, they're all easily explained, they're all online, everyone knows what they are, your buyers know what they are, your salespeople know what they are, your designers know what they are, your project managers or superintendents, they know what they're doing, and your manufacturers, the people that are installing the thing, they know, okay? So what we do is, we call it a digital design center. So it's a roadmap for everything we carry, and it's by floor plan, everything's priced, and we offer people to be able to see all those options even before they buy the house.
Wow, what a crazy concept.
It is.
To be able to visualize your home before they buy it?
Yeah. And so people kind of like that. And the reason they like it is they can't do it anywhere else because they just they don't know what do I do? I don't know what to do. So we kind of have an advantage because we're the only ones doing it. And so we also have a thing called a visualizer, and you can click on cabinets and you can see the colors and all that kind of stuff. So, and then we use interactive floor plans and just, Matterport tours and everything like that. So the buyer has a great experience. And so the whole idea is to offer the buyer a very controlled, large selection that they can personalize and make their own home.
So sounds like technology plays a big role in your ability to actually deliver this to your customers.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what to look for in technology, because there's a lot of different programs on the market right now that's available for you to offer to your customers when they're looking to shop for options. So regardless of what program you use, I'd like to talk about some of the features that you really think are beneficial and what you should look for when you're selecting that program for yourself. So Dennis, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of your favorite features that you've seen?
So there's several pretty good programs on the market. We use Envision, but there's Studio Chateau, they're out of Los Angeles. They do a good job. The advantage there is you have everything under one roof, as it were. You have everything. You'll be able to see pictures of everything and warranty information, installation instructions, and all this information. And that information stays with the buyer forever. And so they're looking at their product in 5 years or 10 years, it's still there. That's very powerful. The other idea is we use the design online as well as our browse nights. Our browse nights is we invite our buyers in as well as non-buyers to come every other Thursday night from 5 to 8. We get about 90 to 100 people there, and we cater it, and it's kind of a party. In our design center, which is 13,000 square feet, we have 12 kitchens, and so it's kind of a fun thing. And so the salespeople come, and they love it there because they can close their buyers. So people that go there have already seen prices on everything, not only the base price and the options price, but everything. And so the buyers meet with the salespeople, and then they also meet with other buyers. And so these guys are buying across the street from each other, and they meet each other for the first time, and it's very powerful. In retail, we call it a buying frenzy. And so it's the same thing here. And so we've taken those retail principles and we've transformed it here. So 30-40% of the people that go to browse night have not written a contract yet. And so those are the ones, that's why the salespeople are there. They work on commission and they want to close those buyers, and they love it. So we have salespeople working with designers, and it works out great.
Mm-hmm. So it's really about combining your digital experience along with some other in-person possibilities, because people still like to come in and feel and touch and smell the model home, so to speak.
Right.
Okay, so, and I know one of the things that we talked about was that you said it's really important to make sure that customers can use the system with ease. Because I think when it comes to technology, it can be intimidating, especially depending on who your buyer profile is. So for a lot of millennials, maybe it's easy and it's natural.
Yeah.
But maybe for a lot of older generation, it may not be so easy. So I know you do give your customers access to all the options beforehand, before they sign a contract.
So we have our salespeople go through and work with each buyer, and they have to. It's not an extra credit thing, it's required. They've got to take their buyers through the system and show it and everything like that. And we we have a printout that tells us if they did that or not. Now, you imagine a salesperson that doesn't do that, and I see it a couple times, it's not a good look, you know. So they tend not to do that. So, but real important for us is to make sure that the price is understood by the buyer, and it's not surprising. And the fact that by doing that, people love it because we're transparent. Okay, so it's like the idea. So here's a picture of a Nordstrom suit. And so you walk into a Nordstrom store, retail analogy here. So you walk into a Nordstrom store and you say to the salesperson, how much is the suit? Salesman says, it's $8.95. Okay, how much is the shirt, the tie, the belt, the pocket square, and the shoes? Well, you got to buy the suit first, and then we'll tell you. Well, that's what we do in home building. And it's the craziest thing in the world. There's no other industry that does that. It's just nuts. So be honest with your customers. If they trust you, they're going to buy from you. And if you build that trust early, they're going to go, well, he's going to build the house better for me. The customer service is going to be better. Everything's going to be better. So that's why we like the idea of being honest with our customers.
And Dennis, one of the things that I loved when we talked earlier was that you said that your contract is 5 pages long.
Yeah.
Now, raise your hand if your contract is, your purchase agreement is 5 pages long. No, it's more like 30 pages, right? So how are you able to do 5 pages? Why?
Well, you know, it's written by lawyers. You know, we kind of write it and then we give it to the lawyers. But, you know, I had one customer come in, this was recently, and they came in and they said, well, we're looking at a brand builder, and their contract was 80 pages. And they said, so the guy said, can I take it home and read it? No, you got to sign it here, you know. So then he walked out of the office without buying the house. Came to us and bought a house. He says, well, how long is your contract? It's 5 pages. Can I read it? Yeah, take him, 10 minutes or something. And the buyer's comment was, I can't trust someone that has that much of a details in their contract because obviously they have problems building houses.
Well, I think it also makes it a lot easier if you give your customers pricing ahead of time so that they feel comfortable putting in the base price at contract.
Right.
And they can worry about adding all the options after the fact because they already know what it's going to cost them.
Yeah, and so we don't do any options at the contract. We just do the base price and a lot premium and things like that. And then we bring them back for structural options. These are things that, affect the permit. And then they do all the option selection at the design center. And so they already have that information, so they know how much all the options are. It makes it real easy. And then we use a thing called barcoding. And when they're in there for browse night, they can on their phone, they can click on all our options, and it goes into their wish list on their My Fulton Home account, and then they can add it to the wish list, and the designer can add it to the contract very easily. And it has all the information, pricing and installation and pictures and everything like that.
So yeah, it's incorporating that physical world with the digital world, and even though they are in person at the model home, they can still use the scanner to see, hey, I like this idea. And
Yeah, and if they forgot their iPhone, which I don't know if anyone's ever done that.
Nobody does.
Right? We have iPads. We have about 10 iPads. We keep them charged, and they can use one of our guest iPads. So we've got it figured out.
So Tiffany, I know you use Studio Chateau for your system, and you obviously work with dozens, if not hundreds, of home builders. So can you talk to us a little bit about some of the benefits to technology, and specifically what types of features Studio Chateau offers that you personally appreciate?
Yeah, so CBI Online turns your options spreadsheet into an interactive online options experience powered by Studio Chateau. And our home buyers use it to create and design a home that's tailored to their personal taste and lifestyle. Some of the features that stand out for me personally, are the flooring module, because that's where we upload all of our labor and our material costing. Our designers provide on-the-fly estimates, and they price out different scenarios easily. And all of the estimates show up as retail prices. And it's the same as Dennis said, everything on the online options catalog is priced out. So it really reduces the financial concerns that the buyers have once they're meeting with the designers at that point. But what would typically take us a week to bid one scenario, we can do on the spot with a click of the button. And that's one of the reasons why we can move the buyers through the selection process so quickly. And in working with the home buyers, it's meeting with them 4 to 5 times to keep them on schedule within your construction schedule. And we can do this because of the online design studio and all that does for us. Research shows that typically home buyers will spend 8 hours prior to their first design appointments, about 30 to 40 minutes each time online, exploring their options. They can make selections, add things to their wish list. There's even a mortgage calculator that prices out how much all of those options together will cost them per month more according to the calculations. And that's done on the spot. So if it's too much, they can take out options. But typically, the more time you spend with the buyers, the more money they want to spend. They want to finish their homes. They want to move in this home so that when they move in, they can enjoy it. They don't have to fix it up later. Something else that we do, and you saw it earlier when Chris with Nortec was up here, or NICE, you saw our design center and how we're featuring the Elon New Home program in our design center. Well, with that, it's really great for our home buyers because instead of meeting separately with an integrator, they get to meet with our designers who show them how Elon works in the design center. And then the designers focus on the lifestyle benefits rather than the techie side of it. What's really great is they get to actually select the lifestyle enhancement packages at the same time as all the other interior design options for their home, all online, available in Studio Chateau. And so that's kind of a differentiator. And then after move-in with our designers, we meet with the home buyers for a finished home design move-in experience, where the designers meet with the home buyers, walk through the home, assure their satisfaction, and talk about CBI's continued services, because we are about making customers. It's not just when the home's finished, but it's continuing these services in the future. And I know that earlier, a few people spoke about the concerns with legal concerns when the builder continues to offer services afterwards. And with us as an independent design center, that's really not a concern. We can keep serving them. And for the things that they didn't finish, we can finish at that time.
So yeah, what really spoke to me about this was the flooring module when you were talking about it, because I remember back in my selling days, I would have a client go to the showroom, spend the time with the designer, and then they would come back to meet with me to wrap up all of the selections. And then a week later, the flooring bill would come in, and then be like, I did not expect another $50,000 in flooring, so now let's pull some other stuff out. So this is great that you can literally press a button and based on their floor plan, you know exactly what that quote is going to look like for flooring. That's incredible.
And then what's also great is with the homebuyer login, it reveals the online options catalog for the home with a photo and a description of every available option populated with cutoff dates for that option category. So options that are no longer available due to the construction schedule are automatically removed each night, and that's something that we manage. But that way, what that buyer sees today is available to them. But in time, less options become available to them. So, but back to that flooring module, yes, it's very powerful because if the flooring, if they've chosen wood or whatever it is they want in their rooms and they're shocked because they're meeting with a designer to do that, we can easily come back and really look at the different options per room and make sure that we fall within that budget that they need to be in while still getting all the other options that are really important to them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So Dennis, you and I talked a little bit about combining the front end that's user-friendly, that is easy for customers to use, but then it also integrates into the back-end system so that you don't have to send fax, you don't have to send email, you don't have to send smoke signal to your vendors. Right. What they've selected is automatically connected to your vendor. So can you talk about the different portals that you use in your business?
Yeah, so here's our various portals. And so everything we do is connected to everything in our system. And that's, it sounds simple, but if you try to do that, it's kind of hard because we run all these different off-the-shelf systems and homemade systems and things like that. And I'm not sure if there's another builder in the country that has every piece of data connected. And, and maybe there is, but I just, no one's come up and said, yeah, I do that.
Well, that's why you're able to share all of this so freely, right? When I was like,
right.
Why are you sharing all of this? Aren't you afraid somebody's going to steal your idea?
Well, they can't. Well, they can, but we
they
also,
haven't yet.
Yeah, so we also have the best IT guy in the country. Patrick Hindle is his name. I've been working with him for 22 years. And when we did Envision, he and I were the only ones that did Envision. We just set it all up, the two of us, right? We didn't know any better. But anyway, so he built these portals, and they're all kind of based on something. We use FAST, F-A-S-T. It's a Constellation Home Builder system as our main system. We use scheduling and options and everything like that. And then we use Envision, and then we use a couple other ones to tie in things. But everything's all tied in. We use a lot map system it's even like a fourth party one. But it's all tied in. Interactive floor plans we use from Media Lab in Florida, and just all sorts of stuff. So
it's really bringing that back end and the front end together so that it is working together. And it sounds like
right.
you had to put a little bit of time to actually make it work, but is it, I assume it's worth it in the end to figure it out.
So we don't even worry about, talking to the trades and things like that. So all the subcontractors have their own portal, and they just log in, and the schedule's on there, and they can bid on there, and everything's on there. And then we have the design center one, and that's all for the design centers, and the designers use that, and the salespeople use that. And then we just use all sorts of stuff, the pool company, the title company, anyone that we're dealing with from the outside has access to all our information. And then the other thing is, we go, well, should we give everyone all this information? Yeah, go ahead. What are you gonna do? We're not launching rockets here, So give them all the information. It's the same thing in our report. So one of the things we do is we give everyone all the information to run reports. So designers can run reports, and salespeople can run reports, and and they can run anything they want. Mm-hmm. And we want to make sure that everyone knows what's going on. So you have salespeople that are very competitive, and they run the sales. Yeah.
Not sales.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And they run the sales analysis report every hour to see how they're doing compared to the other salespeople. So we should almost limit that, but that's okay.
But it's great that you have access to that data at your fingertips, essentially, right? You can download reports, see how everyonene's doing, how I'm comparing to my peers.
Right.
And I think what's great about portals is that most customers expect that now, right? When, if you remember last time you applied for mortgage or you've gone through home buying process, it feels secure when you're dealing with a company that offers this portal, right? Instead of going maybe just online and entering your information.
Yeah, and then probably our most important portal is the buyer portal, which I don't even have on here, but basically that has all the things, the schedule, all their options, all the rules and regulations, the CC&Rs, lot maps, interactive options, all the paperwork, all the contract work, so people don't have to carry around any, piece
Notebook.
of paper and stuff like that. Yeah, so everything's online. They can access it all the time, and again, they have it forever.
Mm-hmm. So obviously, technology is a big piece of making it work seamlessly for your buyers and between trades. I mean, it's amazing that you don't have to do anything. It sends all the information on the back end automatically. So if you guys have any questions, we'll have a few minutes at the end, and I'm sure Dennis will be happy to talk to you about how they implemented the systems that they've implemented. And again, we have a lot of great vendors representing at this event that specialize specifically in option selections. So I'm sure they'll be happy to talk to you about how to implement that if you don't already have something in place. Now, shifting a little bit from technology to best practices, Tiffany, when you and I talked, you talked a lot about setting expectations between the designer as well as setting expectations between the designer and the home buyer when it comes to having that difficult conversation about what happens if you don't actually finish your home the way you want to, and then also training salespeople in this process. So can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
A lot of what we offer is we train not only the team that the builder has, but also we do very intensive designer training that they take each home buyer through 6 different topical conversations. And the idea is that we set the expectations from the very get-go that their participation is integral to the process. So we increase their participation, and then we set and meet their expectations through the process. And the home buyer knows from the get-go that they will only be as happy as their participation in the process. We can't do it for them or to them, but we promise we'll do it together. And we know that home buyers are rarely satisfied, and that their number one complaint on the home buyer surveys is that their home doesn't look like the model. But when they move into a finished home, we set the expectation that they're gonna love it and enjoy it because they don't have to fix it up later, and it matches their personal taste and lifestyle. It's a collaborative process through the entire way. And then we do have those tough conversations that if they only do that partial splash, if that doesn't match that image in their head about how their home should look, they are going to be disappointed when they see that for the first time. So really meeting with the home buyers several times to make sure we understand their inspiration, and then creating a finished home design plan for their home, and then working with them to continue to complete that plan. I mean, how much they choose to do before they move in is completely up to them. But also, that end goal is that it is a finished home. It's a brand new, connected, personalized home. And so we're giving home buyers what they really want at the end of the day. And then also, we partner with sales, customer service, and construction to use team training they can use to sell more homes and really manage the home buyer to a successful home ownership experience together. So we meet about concerns and set the right expectations for everyone when it comes to selling the options and the upgrades and what that's going to look like. And we do all the heavy lifting so that it's not on the builder to have to manage that. So we manage everything that happens with Studio Chateau and take the time to train all home builders personnel on how to use it and what to expect with the vendor notices and the reports to the subcontractors and the vendors and that sort of thing on the back end too.
Mm-hmm. So when I spoke to all 3 of you, you really drove home for me how important it is to describe your options in the way that your customer understands, as well as everyone else involved in the process. So Nancy, can you talk a little bit to that?
Yeah, for those of you that were here earlier, I am a disciple of Mike Moore. And so I was the early onset of options online, and then I am the one that actually purchased and created Studio Chateau. So I'm glad to see people are using it. I'm not part of the ownership team of it, but glad to see it. And I've worked with Envision as well. I had the opportunity to work with both. They're very good systems. The biggest thing is that when we in the industry, we understand how we speak to each other. We understand our little nuances of things. The general public does not. Most people are not buying homes like they buy blouses at Nordstrom's or they do something. So they're not understanding all the technology. So when you write a catalog that the home buyer is going to be using at home in their jammies late at night, you need to make sure that what you're writing is something that the general public will understand. And it's really, as Dennis and Tiffany were saying, it's a lot of work to get this all loaded up front, but people will buy from you once you have the systems in place. And you need to just make sure that you're speaking a language that they understand and it's really clear.
Mm-hmm. So it is obviously a little bit of work up front, but well worth the work.
Right, like in Studio, yeah, so in Studio Chateau, they have what we call a print option, and that is for the home buyer, a catalog option, and that is for the home buyer. Then there's a print option that goes out to the vendors and the subcontractors and, what we call it. The home buyer doesn't see the back end of what happens, but it's all in there.
Mm-hmm. So we get that it's important to offer options.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about how many options do we offer?
So I'm a fan of I think options are very important. I love our industry. I love the options. I am telling you, in 33 years, the consumer still wants options. They still want to personalize their home. Every time the market takes a dive, everyone's like, okay, they know we're closing design centers. We're no longer gonna have, we're gonna do everything in a package. And so there are options, but you just need to be careful on your communities how many options you're offering. You don't wanna overwhelm somebody with so many options that they go, I'm going standard. So I don't necessarily think you only have 3 options. I call it the good, better, best, but find things that are good, better, and best for people so that there's places for them to move. And most of the times our builders create models that are good, better, and best. And so we should be able to offer those. So I think it's really important. I think you need to get with your designers that meet with the general public. They are, I think it was Larry or maybe the other gentleman, they were talking about how many people actually touch the home buyer's hands. And your designers do. They have so much information to give back to you guys on light communities and how to move forward and what we're missing. So I think it's really important to get with your designers. There's lots of reports. When you have systems in place, you can print reports and you can see how many of these refrigerators are selling or how many of these ovens, how many have done the walk kitchens, how many have done the dirty kitchen in the back, and really, how many spent the extra $30,000, $40,000 to do that kitchen in the back, and was it worth it for them? And so that's how I relate to the good, better, best, is get the right options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another benefit of technology, again,
Yep.
is it's so easy to access the information and see what people actually are buying.
Yep.
Tiffany, you touched a little bit on this already, but Nancy, I wanted to dive in more with you on how do we handle smart options? So smart home is becoming more and more popular as people want to integrate technology, and it's a big part of why people want to buy a new home. So who should be doing those selections? Do we have the technology guy? Do we have them in our design center? Is it a separate appointment? What do you think are the best practices?
Oh, I've done it all ways. So I think the best practice is the clients want to meet, your home buyers want to meet with the least amount of people, and they want to go to a one-stop shop is where they want to go. I think your designers need to be educated on on understanding the technology of the homes. Really good designers do understand that. If you need your expert to come in from your technology place to sit in on an appointment and go through that, because they should create the smart home that they want under the conditions that we are a production home building company, and there's only so much we're gonna be able to do for you now, but there's things we can prep to add on to later. And those are the important things that we need to do. I think when I took over or created the Lion Design Studio in Las Vegas, they were William Lyon Homes was sending their clients to 6 places before they even got to the design center. And their biggest complaint they got was, I spent all my money at the technology guy, and I didn't realize how much flooring or window coverings or things that I needed were going to cost me. So it's really best if you you educate your designers to help the clients, and the clients are your home buyers at this point. And the least amount of places they go, the better. And they spend more. I'm just going to tell you, they spend more.
Yeah. I was talking to a home builder, and they said, yeah, because smart appliances are obviously design center, and then what's behind the walls is a little bit different. So they actually have their technology guy sit in the design center so that the designer is present during that communication. So again, they can point better to like, hey, even TV, like where do you put a TV, right? Sometimes we need a designer's help to help us figure out TV, speakers, etc. And again, reel us in when we want to spend all this money on technology and not think about actual.
Well, I'm a firm believer your design studio should demonstrate all of the technology. So you should be able to do that. All of my design studios have technology built in, so we can go touch and feel it and raise the window coverings. We can turn on the TV. We can show how everything integrates. And so I am a believer that we need to do that. So I was really happy to hear that earlier today from NICE. I think it was the gentleman from NICE that was chatting about that. So you guys, not too many places. Don't send them around. People can come to the design center and have additional appointments. The experts can come in there and help.
And Tiffany, I know, or Dennis, yep.
Well, I'm going to take an opposite approach because I do that.
I know, Dennis. We've done this for a long time.
That's why it's a panel.
So we used to do that, and so we spent some time, and we had these guys come in and train our designers about all the smart devices and everything, and they grasped it. It wasn't that. They didn't like doing it. They thought that they would rather spend their time with flooring, the big three, we call it, flooring, cabinets, and
The finishes.
and countertops.
The pretty things.
We call it the big three.
I call it the pretty things.
Okay. And we did that for about 3 years, and so we switched back and we brought in smart home experts. We have a separate room in our design center. But what's happened there, and the reason we do it is we've had up to like 10 appointments in a day in that design center. So it's a really busy place. And so a lot of times we'll have to have 2 people in there to cover, the appointments. And generally, the problem with that is you don't know how long they're going to take. They could take a half hour, they could take 45 minutes, they could take an hour, you don't know. But what it does is it gives the designer a little bit of a break to recoup and kind of rethink their appointment during that time for a half hour or something like that. That break to the designer in that half hour is important. Sometimes they're so intense, and many times we'll have our designers do 2 appointments in a day. And if they have to do 2 appointments, straighten that straight and not, and wolf down a sandwich real quickly, and it's their performance isn't going to be as well. So we just kind of say we want to have the smart home guy in there or gal, and give that designer a little bit of a break. The other thing we have once in a while is when they pull stuff out, which is like the worst thing in the world, when they want to pull stuff out, that's like cringe whenever that happens. And so generally they want to pull out the smart home stuff. They're not going to pull out carpeting. They're not going to pull out, plank floors and stuff like that. So we hate to see that, but rather do that than, take more dollars away.
Absolutely. And Tiffany, I think you mentioned earlier that you do have, like for example, Nortec Controls Elon section set up inside of a design studio. So again, this is like if you imagine like a little couch area with the big screen TV, and on that big screen TV you can display and play all the benefits of smart technology and what you have to offer, and it's usually where the guy goes to hang out, right, while his while the wife is making selections with the designer. So it's a nice little touch to add to your design center where the guy can hang out, relax, but at the same time learn about all the options available. Nancy, I want to come back to you and talk a little bit about how do we price options? Because obviously that's where you guys make your money. Most of your money is made on options. So how do we price it so that people still want to put that in their homes, so that it's not so crazy expensive that they decide, hey, I'm going to go do it after the fact. It's going to be cheaper. So what's the golden rule here?
Well, I know most of the builders that I've worked with in the past, they all want a certain margin on their options. And I don't think they're all created equal. I think that you can lose a customer when you are overpricing way too early on, and then they decide to go standard. And a standard house, from someone that ran a design center or many design centers for 33 years, we didn't get paid for standard. So we don't want standard houses, just letting you know that. And the buyer doesn't want a standard house, and you don't build models that are standard. So the profits should come over time, but they should be varied on what you're doing. So freestanding appliances, things that people can go and get at a Best Buy or do something like that, would have a smaller margin on it, because it's more of a service and a convenience that they're moving in with a new refrigerator and new washer and dryers and things like that, versus the electrical options. The electrical options are going to cause someone to do a remodel, and they're going to have to do drywall repair. They're going to bring an electrician in, drywall repair, paint touch up after they just closed on a new house. Now they're going to start painting and touching up those walls. So those are the items that you can have a higher margin on. The built-in appliances, you can have a higher margin on those. Your flooring, I marketed all of my design studios as we were equal to a fine retailer in the industry. We were not trying to compare ourselves to a mom and pop or a Home Depot, a big box store. I created a Dare to Compare, said go out and shop us, because at the end of the day, we knew what it's going to take to get products installed and what we're including in all of our pricing. Our catalog price is the price to the consumer. There is no hidden price there. When they buy that security system from us with whatever they're going to get, that's it. We're not going back and asking them for more money at that point. And when you go to some of these other companies, which I always would send my designers shopping, go shop. Because a lot of times they forget that our prices are actually really good. And when you send them shopping, they go shopping, and then they realize on the back of most of the forms, it says these prices is only good until we get out to your house, basically. And then all the extra charges will come in. Our prices include all the extra charges. It includes the plumber coming back and resetting toilets. It includes pulling the stool. It includes you keeping your warranties. It includes the electrician having warranty on that house, the one that's doing the work on the house. So the profits need to vary. They will vary. They're not equal across the board. And a lot of times that's not everybody in the building side of it understands that.
Yeah, makes sense. So we talked a lot about technology and the fact that you need to have technology in order to streamline this process. And I think the biggest things for me when it comes to technology were you got to show your options ahead of time before the contract so that your customers can make that decision easier to move on, making contract as short as possible so that because they already know what to expect down the road. Showing pricing, again, as Dennis said, you wouldn't expect somebody to buy a suit and not know what the price for a shirt is going to be with that. It's just, I think, an expectation from a customer now is that they want to know what the price is before they sign on a dotted line. And then, of course, anything you can do to really relieve that pressure of making a decision on what options to put in by including a calculator that's going to show them what that price translates into the mortgage payment. As Tiffany was talking about, it makes much easier conversation with the buyer, right? You can tell them, hey, you can choose this or do this later yourself, but if you do add this, it's only $12 on your mortgage payment. So it's a no-brainer. So as we wrap up, I want to talk quickly about some of the no-nos or some of the mistakes that you have all seen as you implemented offering more options for your customers? What have you learned? So Nancy, why don't we start with you?
So our biggest one is if you guys are going to sell packages or sell options or sell whatever you're doing, make sure the whole team is involved. And the whole team is construction. It has to do with salespeople. It has to do with the designers. And everybody's on the same page. So you need to explain why you're not experimenting on their homes at this point, because basically in construction, you can do anything. Ask you guys. You guys can build anything. You can make it happen. But have we done it? Are we good at it? Are we going to be able to warrant it? So we always used to come back and say, we really just don't want to experiment on your home right now, how we're going to do it. But the biggest thing we had was everybody sticking to the same program and making sure that everybody was saying no when we needed to say no and why. There's usually a reason why you say no, and we can explain it to them. So that is, I would say, stick to your program. Don't throw your designer under the bus where she's the one having to say no or he's the one having to say no. Then you go back to sales, and sales is trying to say no, and then they get to the president of the company. I think Joan was talking about that earlier, and they just give it away. And now we all look like idiots. And then usually that's the house that has the issues with it because we got out of our production process. You know, I always explain this is like a conveyor belt as we're building these homes. And in California, we build them, you know, kind of side by side, phase at a time. Whereas I know in other parts of the country, we'd build one or two here and, you know, different plans. But that's not how it's done in California. So that's of the mindset where what I have learned and what I've created.
Mm-hmm. So just say no.
Well, say no if it's meant to say no, but we should be servicing our client. There's a reason why we're saying no, and hopefully we're saying yes to all the things that actually could be done during the construction process, and no are to the things that we can't buy that carpet because there's a 17-week lead time on that carpet, and we don't purchase that carpet until you're loan approved and you're at the end, and so we just don't have time to hold up a house. Our job was to never hold up the house and to move the production schedule along while everybody was personalizing it at the same time. We've never built two houses that look the same.
Love that. So Dennis, I know that a lot of home builders probably will be asking you, well, all this technology must cost a lot of money, and how difficult is it to implement? So can you talk to us a little bit about how you got started with this?
Yeah, so I always talk about one of the early quotes that, you know, somebody interviewed me a long time ago, and they said, well, this must be really expensive to do all this stuff. And I said, you know, there's more nails in our house than there is all the stuff we pay. So when you look at it, it's a fraction, you know. For the amount of information that we get out of Envision, the payment on this stuff is
minimal.
It's hilarious.
It's minimal.
I mean, it's just,
yeah, it is. I know.
It's like nothing. Okay.
Right.
The profits we make by increased options and customer satisfaction is huge.
Yeah.
Is huge. So, when we first started the design center, and Pat Crowley and I kind of started this thing back in 2006, and we had to get Ira Fulton, the owner, to, you know, sign off on it. You know, he owns the company, for God's sake, you know, and he wasn't wild about it, you know. And we gave him all the numbers and everything. And we said, we think we can do a lot of business, and we can, you know, but the most important thing is we can really move the bar on customer satisfaction. And that was the big thing. He said, well, you can't take that to the bank. I said, okay, I get it, okay. But then...
but you can by buyer referrals.
Exactly.
Actually, at the end of the day,
Yeah,
that's what builders are looking
right.
for, is buyer referrals.
So I said, he had sold a men's big and tall company in Los Angeles and in 1995, and I worked for him, and Doug Fulton worked for him, and Norm Nichols worked for him. So we all came out of that business, and we did $25 million was our annual total business, you know. As I told Ira, I said, we'll do $25 million here in the design center real easily. All the volume that all these stores did, 33 stores. And he goes, oh no, you won't do that much. So about year 3, we did 25 million. And of course, reminded him of that. He was pretty funny. And so then we did 50 million. Now we're at 75 million. It's incredible the amount of dollars we did out of that little design center, you know.
So it pays to invest in a little bit of technology and giving your customers what they're looking for. And I think nowadays people just expect to see pricing, they want to see options. And it's amazing to me, Nancy, that you're saying we don't delay. You know, you offer personalization and you don't delay the process. So it's absolutely doable. I know you guys may have some questions. So we are short on time here. So if you have a 1 or 2 quick questions as we wrap up, anybody? We must have covered it all. And obviously, we're all going to be happy to stick around and answer any questions you may have. We'd like to thank you for attending today's presentation.